Tory Lanez recently released a NFT version, I think, of a single, and he released a million of them for $1 and sold out within a minute, I want to say, under 2 minutes, which is insane. And insane to think that it was a direct one-to-one, dollar for dollar, a million copies at $1, he gets all of it. But on top of that, the fans that actually bought that project, that NFT, had huge upside within weeks to come. You hold on to it, and potentially there's a larger value after from its collectability and it being sought after.
Problems are what? Problems are profits!
Welcome to the Problems and Profits podcast. I'm your host, Matt McKeever, and I'm joined by my co-host, Rebecca Lynn Matheson. And today we've got a special guest, Dan the Lost Boy, aka Dan the NFT Boy these days. I'm really excited to jump into it. But before we get into Dan and his backstory and the evolution of his recent journey, Rebecca, do you want to explain for the audience your take on problems and profits?
Absolutely. So problems or profits for me means in every element of your life, having this mantra or flow that you're going to be able to overcome anything that comes your way. It's taking extreme ownership over your situation and being able to swerve, be agile, and overcome the obstacles that you face. And specifically correlating in this podcast to business and entrepreneurship and building and growing and scaling your business and overcoming all of those challenges along the way on the pathway to success and not just failing, but failing forward so that you can pick yourself back up and keep sprinting. So Dan, welcome to the podcast. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be on here and excited to see what we can get into.
All right. Well, before we jump into the formal podcast, we always like to ask all of our guests 3 warm-up questions. So Dan, the first warm-up question is, what's the most expensive thing you've ever broken?
That's a really good question. I've definitely worn and torn some expensive clothing, some designer clothing before. I've flipped shoes here and there, and that's kind of where I got into some of the expensive footwear. So maybe it's footwear. Just I think that's one of those kind of senseless things that maybe didn't need to be broken so much, and definitely beat the crap out of them. So we'll go with some designer clothing.
Love it. Well, next question here, Dan, which might be answered in your first question, is if you had $1 million and only 24 hours to spend it, designer footwear not allowed. Just kidding.
To be honest, I've kind of geared away from there. And if I had 24 hours to spend $1 million, NFTs.
Yeah, there we go. Dan the NFT Boy.
Would that be one project or multiple projects?
I think I'd diversify and spread out a little bit just to, cover some bases and hope for growth in all areas and maybe some differing growths, if you know what I mean.
All right. Well, question number 3, Dan, is why are you you?
Very good question. I think a lot of the reason I'm me is this inner voice that I carry, and it's my own. I don't really necessarily contemplate if other people have the same voice, but I definitely have a voice within that kind of guides me and kind of, pushes me. It doesn't just let me be sedentary and kind of fit into the status quo. It's this inner voice that's just never really satisfied and always wants a little bit of more from life and wants to take a larger bite. So I'd say what makes me me is that very loud internal voice that really has guided me up till this point and probably will for the rest of my life. And it's one of those internal voices I don't think I could turn down or turn off even if I tried.
Gotcha. And so I'd love to start off the interview just kind of exploring your backstory as well as your different entrepreneurial endeavors, and then maybe you can get into what you're doing these days.
For sure. I mean, it all kind of started with music. I've always just been creative, but it definitely started with music. I used to be into playing guitar. I was always just a large music consumer and come from a pretty musical family. So it kind of started with music, but then it kind of started to grow from there. And as I went through phases in life and just with my creative endeavors, I found myself getting into streetwear clothing, and that's where Lost Boys streetwear came into play, and some of the shoe flipping I referenced earlier, just kind of finding some different creative outlets to keep myself fresh when I felt like maybe music had fizzled out or the passion wasn't there or there was some writer's block or something of the nature. I kind of geared towards just clothing and just other creative outlets like that. And then have now circled back very heavily to my music and integrating that with NFTs and things like that. So that's really my main squeeze right now, but always kind of diversifying my time as much as I can and trying to have those multiple streams of income, but also right now really getting obsessed with just the one and trying to see it expand to its fullest potential so that I can bring all the rest of my endeavors up with it.
Definitely appreciate that, Dan. So I would love to just break down exactly what it is that you are doing in this space, because for people like me who are coming in with absolutely no knowledge on cryptocurrencies or NFTs, I've learned a lot just by being around you and seeing what you're doing. So guys, Dan is a rapper and he has incorporated his rap skills into the NFT world, which an NFT, let's break down what even is an NFT, what does that stand for, and how are you doing rap with this NFT world?
For sure. So broad strokes, I mean, always do your own research and do your own digging. So an NFT is a non-fungible token, and really broad strokes, it's just a digital way to carry value, whether that's just artistic value or a deeper value through a community membership or a utility. It's just basically a way to carry that value, and it lives on the blockchain depending on what blockchain you're working on. And that's basically a public ledger. So it's a public ledger of authenticity in most times for that token, whether it be our work or something of the other. And stemming off of that, I'm kind of working on the something of the other. It's artwork, but mostly we've seen a lot of visual artwork in the space as of yet, and a lot of PFP, which is like profile pictures. Some notable ones being Bored Ape Yacht Club and Cool Cats. Just, you know, that's kind of the surface level of what NFTs can really do. And I'm trying to just dig even just a little bit deeper with the music integration. So the way I'm starting with that is just by these promo songs every Friday I'm doing on my Twitter at Dan the Lost Boy. So I'll put out these promo songs and really just try and add value to some of these communities that are making these artistic pieces, these PFP pieces, and these membership style tokens that these communities start to kind of flourish out of. And by making these songs that really add value to those communities and get them pumped up about the thing that they're already pumped up about, it's kind of been a fun way for me to explore my own musical creativity and kind of push my comfort zone of what I could write about and kind of just the tone of music and really just my capabilities. But also it's been fun to play within these communities and really just see how passionate people are about their particular NFT community or token. And just to see a tip of the iceberg where this could lead in the future has been extremely exciting for me. So really excited to integrate music more in that and to see as a whole where NFTs go.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you breaking that down for us. And I think there is a lot of opportunities in the music space with NFTs. And before maybe getting deeper into that, do you want to just kind of, maybe share your perspective or your experience? Anyone that's been an aspiring artist knows it can be really hard to make a full-time living from this, right? So the idea of being able to maybe have it be a hobby or dabble with it, anyone can do that. But to actually be able to turn it into a full-time gig, a full-time way to earn your living. So I guess, do you mind just kind of sharing what your experience has been up until this point, and maybe what's it about this project that allows you to work on it full-time now?
For sure. I mean, a lot of underground artists or indie artists know that it's a struggle. You're kind of paying out of pocket to make all your art. Most times your recording costs, mixing and mastering and artwork and, just manager, whatever you need in your career really comes out of your own pocket. So it's a tough struggle. And then to boot, most times people expect music for free nowadays, which is just the norm. It is what it is. But uploading to those digital streaming platforms, you have to have some serious numbers in terms of streams to really make it a livable wage, to make it a livable income. So I think what NFTs is kind of doing is removing that meaty middleman, like the person in between being the streaming service, and it lets the artist really tap into their community, whether that be one fan or 1 million fans, even more directly, and really lets the community support the artist dollar for dollar. There's no percentage that someone else gets. There's no streaming platform that gets their hands rich as well. It's kind of just community right to the artist, or consumer right to the product producer. So it's kind of cool in that sense. And I won't get into anything too deep, but I've already seen a lot more income generated from NFT music and some of the things I've done as of late from a lot of years worth of the indie stuff before. So I think there's something to show for there. And again, I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. So excited to see what it can do for me as an artist, but also artists as a whole.
Yeah, and we're starting to see now some other musicians and rappers start to play with this NFT medium, right? So do you mind maybe, breaking down for people that aren't familiar with some of the other projects, like maybe what I'm Spotty's doing, or what Tory Lanez, who's already kind of a mainstream rapper, did with NFTs?
For sure. I think the most notable artist right out of the gate that a lot of people gravitate towards when they think NFT was Blau, because he did kind of start things off. Blau's a bit like an EDM artist, and he's really still pushing the barriers. But when it comes to my kind of playground with rap, as you mentioned, Tory Lanez recently released a NFT version, I think, of a single, and he released 1 million of them for $1 and sold out within a minute, I want to say, under 2 minutes, which is insane. And insane to think that it was a direct one-to-one, dollar for dollar, 1 million copies at $1, he gets all of it. But on top of that, the fans that actually bought that project, that NFT, had huge upside within weeks to come. You hold on to it, and potentially there's a larger value after from its collectability and it being sought after. So there's that cool feature too. And then also rappers are starting to get into it even on the artistic side. But before I get into that, I'll touch on Spotty. So Spotty's done something really, really fun where he's the first and only CryptoPunk rapper. So he's basically assumed his CryptoPunk avatar as his identity as a rapper. So he's now rapping as his CryptoPunk and refers to himself as I'm Spotty, and has done quite well for himself. Again, monetarily and with a community, and now a large kind of following to engage with and to support him long term. So it's really cool to see, again, in my own playground of rap, people utilizing the music integration with it. But also now I've heard even rappers like the same Tory Lanez is doing something with his dog on an artistic side. He did like an NFT project based off of his Frenchie bulldog. And I heard Lil Uzi was launching something as well. So just to see people starting to tap into the technology on all fronts is really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that there is something to be said about the community element to this. And from an outsider looking in, a lot of people don't really understand how JPEGs or PDFs are going for like millions of dollars. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense from the outside looking in until you actually understand the in behind the scenes community element to this space. So I'd love to just hear a little bit more about how communities are created, how music can actually service those communities, and what the opportunities are in there in building those communities in the NFT world.
For sure. I mean, there's massive opportunity for the community building. And I think that was something that was discovered by some of these more blue chip projects like Bored Ape Yacht Club or a Cool Cats, that just as much as it was about the artwork, it was about the people banding together, having really, open conversation in Discords, being just genuine friends, even though you're most times across the world. And I think there's something special about that these people might not even always speak the same language as you, but you're communicating and you have this one pillar, that NFT project, that kind of anchors you all together and is a topic of information you all share and you really are just, again, passionate about. So it's cool to to see that. But the way I think music can service that is music you really take everywhere with you. And I think the avatar is great and it's a cool flex and it's useful in a lot of places. But I think the music aspect can be taken kind of off chain, if you will, and be utilized like normal. Have it in your pocket with you every day and really resonate with people even further than maybe just a JPEG avatar. With still the potential of embedding membership value and ongoing community value within the song token or whatever that product may look like. But I think that's really, another step up that could be added to what's going on already with these communities is integrating, an audio aspect as well. So people can really live that life. And that's what they want to do. People are so passionate. They want to wear the merch. They want to go to the conferences. They want to really just be a family. And I think, without getting too deep, there's deep connection missing in the whole world right now. And to be able to find that through kind of a stranger might seem weird at first, but there's something even more freeing about it because you don't have to really put up a facade. Most times you're even behind a screen. You can truly be yourself. And I find people are really leaning into that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important concept here, is community. And, I totally relate to that from a sporting background. As soon as you join a rugby team, you have 30 best friends. And as soon as you travel anywhere in the world and you meet a fellow rugby player, well, you're immediately on common ground and you immediately can just vibe about that thing. So if I have the same NFT as like somebody else that's across the globe, but I meet up with them, suddenly we have this commonality and we know the same things about this community and we have this common interest, and it really pulls people together. And when there's kind of also things in addition to that bind people together, like music, something that you can literally listen to and it resonates with you on a deeper level. I think that there's just so much untapped potential here in this market. So I definitely love to see how that potential kind of space will just continue to expand in the coming years.
Absolutely.
And so I think just building upon the idea of community, for a lot of people thinking about successful musicians or music in general, outsider looking in, I could see how it's easy to overlook the value of community. And I think if you look at what the average full-time musician, how they made their money, for a lot of people, it might come as a surprise, but it's often live events. It's the merch you sell at live events, particularly as streamings became more and more popular and record sales have kind of diminished. And over the last 18 months, obviously, it's been a real challenge for a lot of artists who made their money touring because they essentially can no longer tour. It's a lot more difficult. It's hard to know whether you'll be able to tour 6 months or a year from now. And so just kind of talking through that concept of community and music, what is it that you're exactly trying to do, Dan?
Really, I think just gaining a massive community of people that are all like-minded and enjoy music, obviously first and foremost, but that can get behind music with a message and kind of just a larger picture, because I'm trying to build that. I have other endeavors, and also with what we're building, Project LB52, I have a goal of eventually, having a musical playground for people, for artists to come, for indie artists to develop themselves. And what that entirely looks like, it's not clear, but I think just having the ability to give back through the community is really the end goal.
And so has there been any NFT communities, music or otherwise, that you've connected with, deeply so far? And what was it about those communities that drew you in? What would you try and explain to an outsider looking in? Why does belonging to this community matter?
Some of the first ones that really caught my attention and that I became kind of ingrained in was Blaze Cats. And the reason being there was a fun meme project. It kind of had a satire undertone. It was mocking and poking at another project. But even more than that, it had a charitable donation side. So they were committed to giving back to mental health and things of that nature. And I think that's a really cool tool that can be used here. and to fit in. And I actually worked on a project for them, got some attention through the project, and was able to actually transfer the song, to the developers of the project. And I was able to actually donate half of the proceeds to charity, which feels good, to be able to make music, give back, and to belong to that community, and to feel the embrace when I did do that donation, when I, followed through and was able to put the transaction code through Etherscan, and to have that community be like, hoorah. I think I understood even more so the value of it, of that, again, that embrace. And from there, I've really just been tapping into a lot of different communities and seeing a lot of the same throughout them. I think that's a trend in the NFT space, is the deep level of conviction and passion into these communities. So I definitely stick with my answer on Blaze Cats. It has a special place in my heart just because of it being one of the first projects that kind of took on one of my songs and really welcomed me with open arms.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that, Dan. So you mentioned a project that is going to be launching. So let's talk a little bit about that project and dive into what that all entails.
Sounds good. Yeah. So Project LB52 is something that kind of me and Matt have partnered on, actually. And it's a business that is going to do just what I've been kind of touching on today. It's going to integrate music into the NFT space, combining a lot of the factors that most people are used to seeing, but adding on top of it the value of a custom-made song, made for you song through me. So upon purchasing, you're going to get a PFP style token, something we're used to seeing, something you could use as your Twitter profile picture. That's actually going to carry some membership value with it. But on top of that, what's fun and unique about this project and what we can do with having artists and producers on board is we're going to offer the opportunity for the person holding that token to make their own song through me. So whatever subject you want, whatever topic you want, some loose choice on genre and a little bit of the vibe and tone of the song, you're going to be able to create that through me. And then that will be its own token itself that you will be able to hold. So I think we're really aiming to add another layer, another level of value that we haven't seen yet, and still really trying to cultivate a passionate community that's family-like and that really bands together around the artwork. But again, so much more than what we're used to seeing.
And so can you elaborate on, what separates this from just buying a single, right? Or downloading a song off of iTunes?
Very good question. And I'm glad you asked, because that is a very large distinction. It isn't just a single or an MP3 that's going to be a token. This is going to carry 100% commercial rights to the song. So that means this is your song as if you made it. You can do what I could do with the song. You could put it on your own Spotify. You could sell the song to a company. You could use it in whatever multimedia facets you saw fit. You could actually sell rights to other people to use it in multimedia facets. So I think a really creative individual or brand or business or influencer could really do a lot with this if they, again, just put a little bit of creativity and thought into it. There's some strategy and some gamification here to utilize those full commercial rights, owning that song 100% in some cool ways. So I'm excited to see what people do there.
Yeah. And obviously I'm bought into the project because I'm one of the partners in it, but just to really elaborate for people at home, because I think this is one of those things where a lot of people coming into this space don't know what they don't know. So this honestly is the Wild West. There's a lot of room for growth in this space. And, when we're thinking about even something that may sound as simple as custom songs, like who may that be for? Well, in my mind, that could be for the micro influencer that wants a theme song for their YouTube channel, right? It could be for the person that's launching their own NFT project. And again, they want a theme song for it. It could be for a local business. It could even just be someone doing a spec song. It could be them hey, I really love this thing. I bet they would love a song. I'm going to make a custom, or get Dan to make a custom song for them. And then maybe I'm going to try and flip it and resell it for more value if Dan makes a great song. It could be someone deciding that they want a custom wedding song and deciding that they actually want to approach it that way, or their bachelor or bachelorette party can have its own theme song. It could be your softball team, right? Your hockey team that wants their own banger song that they can play when they come out on the ice. And I think that what this really gets down to is just a personalized nature, right? And a lot of products are either being commoditized or really personalized. And I think that this NFT space offers just a really unique opportunity to connect with your fan base, connect with music lovers in just a way that you couldn't just buying a t-shirt at the merch table, right?
Absolutely. And I think it was great for you to give a little more insight there, Matt, because I think you are a creative person, and it just shows. That's just a little laundry list that you kind of came up with. I think if people really dug their heels in and thought here, they could come up with some pretty ludicrous, maybe lucrative options for their song. And another note is, as we said, you can strategize and sell the song, but still stay in the community with that membership token. It's kind of like you get to choose your own path, choose your own adventure, and there's some option there. And I think people are really going to like that utility factor of a little bit of choice. You can diamond hand the whole thing all the way till the end, or you can, get a little bit of liquidity back through maybe flipping your song and holding your membership token so you can still see where the promised land is.
Absolutely. So I want to break this down a little bit more for those who are maybe new to the NFT space. So how does one go about contributing to the project or even getting a song from you?
Well, at this point, we're kind of pre-launch. We're really working hard to build it out and get it launched mid-October, we're hoping for. There's a lot of, just as you're saying, it's something we're new to. I'm new to. I can speak for myself. So there's been a lot of learning curves, but they've been really fun, constructive learning curves that I've learned a lot from, and I'm excited to utilize that information going forward. But yeah, so at this point, there's nothing to really buy into, but I would heavily suggest following along at Dan the Lost Boy on Twitter and jumping into our Discord, the Project LB52 Discord, which you can find the link in my bio on Instagram or Twitter. And that's where you're going to find a lot of the upcoming information. And if you're really intrigued and interested, you're going to find a lot of launch information. And when we do launch and actually start minting, that's where you're going to find official links and all the secure links and stuff you're going to want to or you're going to need for the mint. So definitely suggest jumping in there and joining in the conversation early. I'm already kind of putting out those promo songs every Friday, and that's something I feel like just can get the community engaged. I really want to get some suggestions about who do you guys think I should do the next NFT project for in terms of song? Who needs a song out there? And I just want to hear from what people are thinking of those songs. And the songs really give an example of what we can do with the custom music. It gives an example of, you can make it for a project. You can make it for a certain NFT, as I've done with actually one of Matt's Bored Apes. If you're literally assuming that identity, you can have a song for yourself as that NFT. There's just so many options.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Now, for somebody who has never bought an NFT, what are the next steps? So do they get a membership to a website? How do they pay for it? How do they actually go about taking those next steps once this is launched?
Again, very good question. A lot of this, I would suggest, again, doing your own research. I wouldn't use my word as the word of God, but some suggestions would be check out MetaMask. It seems to be kind of an industry standard for a Web3 wallet. And for a lot of the stuff here we're discussing in terms of minting or even just purchasing secondary market NFTs, you're going to need a Web3 wallet. And Web3 just kind of describes what we're seeing here with NFTs and cryptocurrency. Web2 is kind of www. What we're so used to. So if you want to interact with some of that Web3 stuff, I'd recommend checking out MetaMask, making a wallet, and then to feed that wallet, you're also going to need a little bit of liquid cryptocurrency. And for that, just because I'm Canadian, we're Canadian, I suggest ShakePay. And I know I have a link in my bio. Matt has a link in his bio. I'm sure you can find someone with a reference code that'll actually get you a little bit of a kickback as well. So that's probably my out of the gate suggestions is check out ShakePay and maybe get a MetaMask wallet.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to really reiterate for anyone that's listening to this at home, that's new to the NFT space, it really is about community. And where those communities exist is almost exclusively on Twitter and Discord. So those really are the two channels that you need to be joining and interacting with if you want to get the feel for just about any sort of current or present NFT project. And each one will have their own Discord, they'll have their own Twitter account. And oftentimes you'll find that there's an entire community on both those platforms that are just, if it's the right project, if it's a good project, that are very robust, very vocal, and very helpful as well. There also are dragons out there, especially in the world of cryptocurrencies. So for anyone listening to this, there is no undo button when it comes to cryptocurrency. So I think that usually there's almost always a painful lesson for someone on their hero's journey of getting into cryptocurrency. So be aware of that. Don't click on links in Discord that you don't trust. Always double check the website domain that you're using. And there's a lot of great resources out there that should hopefully also help you navigate this new NFT landscape. For anyone that wants, I've got a free e-guide on my website. So really encourage you guys, just go to mattmckeever.com, download the free e-guide, and just get familiar with some of the basic language, because there's some really wonderful communities. There's wonderful opportunities to also make money in this space. But if you don't really commit to it, I think that it can be really easy to be taken advantage of in this space as well. So it's important that people go into this eyes wide open. But I personally, when it comes to NFTs and the tokenization of things, I think that just about any sort of financial product that we've ever seen up until this point in time, almost anything that can be owned will eventually likely be tokenized. So both anything in the digital or physical world will likely see that come out. And it's a great time to be learning about this. You don't necessarily need to panic, though, and have FOMO and have to jump blindly into projects, because again, not everything will always go up, and we definitely are in a bull cycle right now. But, projects like yours, Dan, I think really do offer some unique opportunities where there's real underlying utility. And so do you mind maybe just touch upon that one more time and comparing? Because when we're talking about these PFPs, these profile photos, they're essentially the only utility is a social media flex. So with my, Bored Ape Yacht Club profile photo, which I use on a couple of my social media platforms, really the only value is it's a Veblen good. It's really expensive, and because it's really expensive, people pay a lot of money for it. Mm-hmm. And that essentially stems from the scarcity. But when we're getting into the more commercial aspects of your project, someone could literally, if they had you write a top 100 song and it went platinum, they in theory could benefit from that. They could sell it or release it to a label or a TV show or anything of that nature, right?
Absolutely. And I think I'm just excited about that fact as maybe some of the potential customers might be. As crazy to some people as that might sound, to maybe be leaving money on the table, I think that just shows that there's even more ahead and what could be done here, right? And I think no matter which way I look at it, those songs I made, and I'm going to get to enjoy that fact no matter what happens with them. So to see them maybe used in, again, creative, really lucrative ways would be awesome. But to circle back to the question about kind of highlighting the value proposition that we have really with this project that might kind of differ from others, is we have what we're all used to seeing is really cool artwork, and I can vouch for that now that I'm seeing it. We're creating some of it behind the scenes. You're going to get a really cool PFP that carries membership value, and that membership value may lead to things like, in real life events, live stream concerts with shout outs to all the token holders, just really creative ideas to get people engaged and give ongoing value. That's really the value prop with the PFP specifically, is cool artwork, but ongoing value. I really want to see this through for the next 5 years and be able to really put a lot of my resources and time into this community and giving back to them if they choose to support me with this launch. So that's a big part of it. But in the music side, as we touched on, the commercial rights and really being able to do anything you want with this song is huge. And I think people are just starting to understand that. Even with the artwork side of things, I've seen people starting brands with their NFTs, that, a coffee brand or a burger shack, and you can use your NFT as the face of that because you own it. So people are starting to understand that. But then let's think about that with music integration. There's a lot that can be done there, and it's really exciting. And on top of that, there's just collectability. I think people like to buy, trade, and sell things that they see of value. And I hope that this is one of them. I'm going to make sure it's one of them, because the the feedback that I'm getting through some of these promo songs, I think is a really good proof of concept for some of the maybe observers of the project, maybe potential buyers of. There's already people doing creative things with some of the projects that I've done. And I think it's just a matter of the potential customer coming up with some really cool ideas and clicking mint on projectlb52.com and starting that journey. So I'm excited to really see this through.
Yeah. And again, some of the examples we've seen in the NFT space with other projects are, Visa US bought a CryptoPunk. And I would argue that the primary function behind that was marketing. It was just realizing that, hey, if we spend a lot of money on this JPEG, this 24 by 24 pixelated image, that, oh shit, a lot of people are actually going to pay attention. They're going to retweet it. They're going to write articles on us. They're going to just comment on it. And that in and of itself is valuable to any business. On the flip side, you've got companies like Arizona Iced Tea buying a Bored Ape Yacht Club profile photo, and they're literally, it sounds like, going to have that on a brand or a line of beverage drinks that they'll release. I think it also was recently announced they bought 3 Cool Cats. So again, it's really fascinating to think about this. And on the flip side, we've also seen cottage industries start up with people, hey, I'll put your ape on a skateboard. I'll put your punk on your shoes. I'll do this, that, and the other. It really is just an opportunity for people to wear with pride and kind of have more of a stake in the underlying thing they're a fan of. So, it's fun to be a fan of The Simpsons or Rick and Morty. It's great to, enjoy your favorite sports team, but it's really a one-way relationship. Like, you can cheer for them all you want. You can support them financially to the furthest extent you can. And yet they're really never going to reciprocate. Maybe if you get really lucky, they go on to have a championship team. However, with these NFT projects where there's an open market and others choose to buy and purchase and sell on the secondary market, every time that Bored Ape Yacht Club gets attention, it also increases the underlying value of my investment in my Bored Ape Yacht Club tokens. The same thing holds true, I think, with what you're doing here, Dan. If, down the road, Dan goes on to be a famous rapper, well, hey, if I own essentially, the commercial rights to one of his songs, there's a lot of interesting things I could do there, depending upon the details of that commercial right. Maybe I can do a remix of that song. Or maybe if I'm an up and coming rapper, I can literally pretend like me and Dan featured on each other's song, and I can create a remix where I come in and do a verse as well. And again, this is where I think for people that really want to make the most of these NFT opportunities, what you likely need to do is a bunch of research, play around in the space, but also give yourself some white space to really just think about what's even possible. What have you seen other people do in other industries with other sorts of products or other types of services? And I almost guarantee there's a way to find a really useful, novel approach with NFTs that will likely have a lot of benefit to a community.
Absolutely. And I'd love to jump in and maybe challenge some of your listeners and viewers here. I know a lot of people on this channel are usually real estate oriented, and maybe, leave some of that white space and think about how could I integrate NFTs once you've done some research into real estate or into any endeavor that you, your friends, or your family are involved in. And just, as a little challenge to yourself, just poke and prod your own brain and see what you can come up with, because the opportunities and the ideas are truly endless.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk a little bit about how to go about doing the research, because that's been a topic that's come up across the board when people talk about NFT projects, when people talk about getting into the NFT world, is what's the actual best sources to go about finding information? How does one actually do research? I know 2 platforms have already been mentioned here, Twitter and Discord, which are definitely important platforms to check out if you're going to start to check out different communities. But what's the actual best way to start to research in the NFT space?
I think a lot of the time finding and following some very honest and just large NFT, whether it be collectors, traders, producers, so sometimes even just technology experts. And an example might be Kevin Rose or a Gary Vaynerchuk. And I think I can say those names with confidence because they have a long-term vetted, just stake in the game. They're not going anywhere, and they're putting a lot of their time and energy into NFTs. And I think that says something. And just following along with maybe some of the cues and information that they're sharing on their pages, and then expanding off of that, really finding things that call to you. And I think that's one thing that's left out of the do your own research when it comes to the art is, if you are a buyer, buy things you really like, that you resonate with, that you could see holding if maybe things went to the bottom. it's I think maybe sometimes the last mentioned thing, but it's very important of just remember the art is part of it too. It's not just a stock, or it's not a something like that. It's got more to it. So I think the options are endless for doing your own research, but just make sure it's trustworthy and a good source.
Well, again, really appreciate you coming on, Dan, sharing your perspective as well as your project in regards to LB52. So if people want to follow along, you mentioned some of the social media handles, but how can they follow along with just you?
For me, it's going to be at Dan the Lost Boy on Twitter, Instagram, and that's going to be on Spotify and streaming platforms as well if you kind of want to listen along with what I'm doing. And then for the NFT project, as I stated, the Project LB52 Discord, which you can find through my links. And there's actually a Project LB52 Twitter page and Instagram page. Not much going on there yet, but I definitely suggest following along for when we do start putting out some of that information, because it's going to come quick. And that's at Project LB52.
Awesome. And I know the website's not live yet, but it likely will be by the time this episode comes out. So what's the website?
The website is projectlb52.com. So it's nice and seamless.
Awesome, Dan. Well, really appreciate you coming on to another episode of the Problems or Profits podcast. Always refreshing to hear your perspectives and also just follow along on your journey in this NFT space. So very much appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much. Very grateful to be on here, and super appreciative. That's it. Peace.